Deepti Kadaran joins me on the set to take a look at what the papers have been saying today. Hi, Deepti.
Hi, Jeannie.
Lots of focus, of course, on those Iranian airstrikes on U.S. troops based in Iraq.
That's right. All the focus is on Iran in the papers today. Let's show you this great cartoon from the Algerian cartoonist Hik. Pretty much sums up the situation in one little cartoon. The fate of the world, and particularly the Middle East, is in the hands of the U.S. and Iran, who you see here, locked in a fierce arm wrestle. So really quite a self-explanatory cartoon. Let's show you also this front page of Al-Akhbar. That's a Lebanese paper which is very close to the Iran-backed Hezbollah. They, on their front pages, have been posting maps of American military bases in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Bahrain, and the Emirates. The paper rather jubilantly announcing that Iran has entered a new phase where it's beginning to act on its threats. It also warns that the airstrikes are a turning point for the whole region, with the U.S. and Iran, at least for the moment, engaging in direct armed conflict. Al-Akhbar also announcing the beginning of the battle for liberation on its front page, in a sense saying that it's a liberation of the Middle East. And there's also a really interesting article from the Israeli paper, the Jerusalem Post, which notes that the Iranian airstrikes are really a departure in Iranian strategy, which usually favors ambiguity. I quote, "It likes recruiting proxies like Hezbollah or the Houthis in Yemen, so it can have plausible deniability." In this case, though, the writer says that Iran knows it doesn't have the Air Force or the Navy to confront the U.S., really both countries saying they don't want a war.
Now, there are a lot of questions in the U.S. papers today about whether or not these airstrikes actually signal war.
Well, the U.S. president definitely played that down in a tweet. Donald Trump said that all was well, with a lot of exclamation points in that tweet. In this piece today, the Wall Street Journal notes that history has taught us that many armed confrontations begin, quote, by inadvertence, not by design. Given this is an election year, many don't know what Donald Trump's motivations are. He has explicitly said in the past he doesn't want a war. But, for instance, the Wall Street Journal says Iran could force his hand by staging a spectacular attack against Americans. And that could be one of the big risks out of this conflict. In any case, for the New York Times columnist Frank Bruni, Donald Trump lacks the credibility to lead the U.S. into any kind of war. I quote, he says Donald Trump is inexperienced, impulsive, and perpetually aggrieved, precisely someone the U.S. cannot afford right now.
Now, this conflict is also being played out on social media.
That's right. After the airstrike that killed the the Iranian General Soleimani, Donald Trump, he taunted the Iranians by posting a picture of the U.S. flag on Twitter. Well, after the Iranian airstrikes, Iranian officials have taken to posting pictures of the Iranian flag on Twitter. It all seems a little bit puerile, to be honest, but it does show you how tense things are right now.
Now, others are saying that this retaliation from Iran actually might be enough to calm things down.
Well, here's hoping. This Guardian article is really interesting. It notes that the Iranian airstrikes were very heavy on symbolism. The time of the strikes coincided with the time of the U.S. strike on the Iranian general. As we mentioned, Iranians and Americans posting flags on Twitter. And also, the Guardian says the attacks appear to have been carefully calibrated to avoid U.S. casualties. The bases targeted were already on high alert. In this regard, the Guardian says that maybe the strikes will be an opportunity for Iran to say it got revenge. It could be an opportunity for the U.S. to step back now. Both sides, quote, able to de-escalate without losing face.
In any case, we are certainly seeing the hashtag no war with Iran popping back up.
That's right, because U.S. lawmakers, have taken to Twitter to urge the calming of tensions, in particular Ilhan Omar with a rather poignant tweet here warning that innocent lives will be lost and the future of generations will be impacted if we go on to war. In fact, Win Without War is an advocacy coalition out of Washington, Jeannie, which formed in the lead up to the Iraqi war in the early 2000s. The group put out a statement today calling for all parties to immediately de-escalate and, quote, reject an unnecessary and costly war of choice. There is no official war, but dozens of anti-war marches led by a cohort of progressive groups are being planned across the U.S. this Thursday.
Deepti, thank you so much for that. Don't forget, if you want to take a closer look at the press review or follow our continuing developments out of Iran, Iraq, and the U.S., you can always check that out on our website. The address is france24.com.